Hey, good morning everybody and welcome to Family Jesus Time as we wrap up our rotation on Samson this week. Our theme for this year is new beginnings, and Samson's life was supposed to be a new beginning for Israel. God had called Samson to save Israel from the Philistines, who have been really attacking and making Israel's life miserable. But Samson didn't really live his life the way God would have him do. And things ended up with Samson finally being caught by the Philistines, because Samson talked about his hair giving him his strength, not God. And last week, Delilah shaved Samson's head, and he was captured by the Philistines, and they did horrible things to him, including taking out his eyes. I mean, it was really, really bad. But in that badness, Samson realized that all this time God had been with him. In spite of Samson not seeking God, God had been there. And in his misery, in his despair, in his horrible situation, now in chains with no eyes, he called out to God. And he asked for God to forgive him and to restore him and to give him a new beginning, so he could be Israel's champion, so he could defeat the enemies of Israel, the enemies of God's people. And God gave him the opportunity to do that in a huge banquet the Philistines had to celebrate that they had beaten Samson. And they dragged Samson there, all nasty looking because they had been beating him and treating him so badly. And they tied him up in the middle of the building with his arms stretched out between two pillars so everybody could make fun of him. And all the leaders of the Philistines were there. All their political leaders, all their generals, everybody who had wanted Samson gone so they could continue to pick on and harass and hurt Israel, they were all there. And God gave Samson his strength back so Samson could save Israel from their enemies through God's power. And through God's power, Samson was able to pull those two pillars down that were holding up the roof. And as the building collapsed, Samson, through the power of God, was able to defeat the leaders of God's enemies, so that the people of Israel were freed from that cruel, mean, vicious treatment people were giving them. And they could then rejoice in the fact that they had a new beginning through a gift of God's grace. I hope you guys talk a little bit about how God can work through even sinful people to give them new beginnings and to be blessings to the world they live in. I pray that you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.